Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, your boy Vertus here, and welcome back to my Unreal Engine 4 Advanced Blueprint tutorial series. In today's video, we are going to be showing you how you can work with blueprint classes inside of Unreal Engine 4 to create some basic blueprints. Now, previously in the series, I gave you a brief understanding as to the difference between a level blueprint and a class blueprint, and in today's video I just want to put that into a practical use. Now what we did in the last video is we set up this little point light system as part of the level blueprint that turns itself off. However, if we want to have multiple of these, it's going to be a lot of work, and I'm going to have to create that blueprint script for every single item if it's part of a level blueprint. What I can do instead is add it to a blueprint class, and then I can just drag and drop that blueprint class into the scene, and it's going to allow you to reuse that code. So what I'm going to do then is I am going to create a new blueprint class. So right click in my content browser, and then I'm just going to create a basic asset, which is a blueprint class. Now within this, when I try and create a blueprint class, there's a whole bunch of templates or types that I can use. Now don't worry if you don't understand what each and every one of these are at the moment, that's nothing to worry about. The most simple and the most common type you're going to be working with is a blueprint actor. So I'm just going to create one of these, and then in the content browser I'm just going to give this the name light setup. And then if I double click this to open it up, we can start working with this. Now when you get into this, it's going to take you to this view with the 3D panel instead of your event graph. And the reason why it's doing that is because inside of the blueprint classes, they are completely self-contained. So you're going to add the components inside of the blueprint, inside of this blueprint actor, and then reference any of your code sort of internally as part of the event graph up here, which is really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a system similar to the one that we had before with a light, but this time when you walk near the light, it's going to turn itself on. So for that, obviously I'm going to need a lighting component. So up in the top left hand corner, I am going to add a point light component, and notice that is going to go into our viewports just here, and then from here on the right hand side in the details panel I can change any one of the settings for this light. So if I wanted to, I could change things like the color, the intensity, and all of that good stuff. What I can also do is inside of here is I can add some additional components as well. So this time, instead of just a floating light, I am going to add a static mesh, and with this static mesh in the details panel, I am going to use the starter lamp, so SM_lamp wall, and I'm going to use this. And the reason why I'm using this is so you can start to see how we can use a variety of components and pieces inside of a blueprint actor to create something a little bit more advanced. So I'm going to move this down and try and keep the light slightly just, the point light slightly just above the actor. Now what I'm going to do so I can see this better in the game, or is just drag it into the game like this so I can see it better. And if I wanted to, I can have more than one of these. And any code that I'm going to attach to these in a moment is going to persist over to each one, which is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is just rotate this so it fits onto the wall, and I'm going to do that just rotating it 90 degrees just like that. Same goes for the other one, and what we've got is a cool looking light that goes onto the wall. And then I'm also just going to make sure it's fully attached just like that, and we are good. Now I could sit around and I could play around with the lighting position just to make it look really nice, but that is entirely up to you. Now what I'm going to do then is I'm going to open this up, And I'm going to add in a box collision, which is something that we are going to use to set off a trigger to create an event that when the player actually collides with this, it's going to toggle the visibility of the light. So I've added this box collision, and right now it covers the whole of the light here. So once the player gets in this area, it is going to create an event which is going to fire off our code. So we've got all of these components. Let's show you how you can use that as part of the event graph. So what I'm going to do is, with my box collision selected in the components panel, I am going to click, drag and drop it in, and then we get a reference to our box. With this box selected, we are going to be able to create a variety of events. So we've got hit, begin overlap, end overlap, wake, sleep, and as you go through the series or start to experiment with Unreal Engine 4 blueprints, you will get to understand what each one of these are. The one that I'm after is on component begin overlap, and I'm going to press plus next to that to create this. And if you read the description of this, you can start to see exactly what it does. Event called when something starts to overlap this component. For example, a player walking into a trigger, and that's exactly what I want to do. So with this then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with our character, and the way that we're going to do this is, for the other actor, we need to reference our character. Now, what I'm going to do this is I'm going to cast to my character, which is a separate blueprint class. And the way that I'm going to do this is by casting it to, you can see we've got this third person character. So what I'm going to do for the other actor, I am going to cast to third person character. And notice how you've now got an execution pin coming out of that. So what it's going to do is, if the other actor, which is the third person character, if it begins to overlap, any code we now add to this is going to be fired off. So what I'm going to do then is grab my point light, drag it into here, get a reference, and then from this, I am just going to toggle the visibility. And now, if we hook this up to the execution, after cast to third person character, because it's essentially mocking a line of code, so it's going to go from here to here to here, if we go ahead and run over this, if I compile it and press play, and then walk into one of these, you can see it's going to turn it off. And it's the same for each and every single one of these, and it's going to keep doing it each time I go into one of these. But hopefully with this, you can start to see your blueprint classes coming to shape, and hopefully you can see the difference between a blueprint class and a level blueprint. With blueprint classes, you can easily replicate the same bit of code and reuse it from level to level, or even just have a couple of these placed around the scene. Now, don't worry if you don't understand fully what all of the code does, you will get a hang of that, you just need to stay with me. But for now, I'm going to end the video here. Once again guys, thanks for watching, stay awesome, keep creating, your boy Virtus, signing out. This video was made possible by my supporters on Patreon. If you want more videos like this, check out my Patreon page using the link in the description. To stay up to date on new releases, make sure you follow us on social media.